Welcome to Deep Thought. Ease away from madness. I'm going to tell you what. In life, you will probably everybody will run into a situation where it's just pure chaos. It's just chaos. It's madness. It's craziness. There's no positive thing going out. It could be on jobs, which you can't. You can run into stuff on a job and, you can't just ease away from it's a job, but you can avoid it. Or like if you got madness on your job or something, just focus on your job. Let the madness happen on another thing. And the madness is usually don't have to do with work, but just personalities and everything. Focus on your job. And if it gets to a bad enough point, let human resources know what's going on. Say, hey, this interfering with my job. It could be in your personal life. You around a social circle or group of people who just on some crazy stuff. It could be like in social media groups. Those are social circles now or something. And you see a bunch of craziness, people are acting up. Anything. And when it's madness, when it's chaos. Anytime you can look at it and say, this some crazy ass shit. It's madness. If those come out your mouth or people shouldn't have to be going through this, you got to ease away from it. Now, see, a lot of times for myriad reasons, people will stay with it. Now, I'm going to tell you one of the biggest reasons people will stay with it in situations where their social circle or the situations got chaos, and this is beyond the job where you're forced to stay there, or even in a neighborhood where you have a home or something you can't easily move away. A lot of people enjoy it. They secretly enjoy the drama. When people seek out drama, or especially when they can just leave it alone, they enjoy the drama. They enjoy it. They entertained by it. Like on YouTube. Let's be real on YouTube. There's a lot of people going back and forth, beefs and all of that. People trying to start stuff, get into people, call themselves dragging people. And yet people are watching it, even though it's no constructive thing for it. That's because at some level they like the drama. You ain't getting anything out of it. People looking at it as entertainment, right? But is that doing you any good, though? Is that doing you any good? Because me, I'm going to tell you what, I stay away from chaos. I stay away from it as best as possible. I spent the early part of my life in chaos. So it's like, I always try to find order no matter what. And see, when you have the opportunity, you got to ease away from it. What's that doing for you? You got to think, how is that affecting you if you staying in a situation voluntarily and it's chaotic, it's madness? What that say about you? You enjoying it, you getting off on it, but I'm like, okay, what you getting from it? Now, the key for you, you got to think, what do you want in life? What do you ultimately want? Most people, unless they got some serious issues, want peace. Okay, you want that peace, but you entertained by that madness, but you can't have both. They can't coexist. They can't coexist in the same area. In fact, the nature of order is to bring a sense of the control of chaos, right? So when you're in that situation, you see madness, you see chaos, you see craziness, you got to ease away from it. Even on jobs and stuff, if you want a job and it's a bunch of madness, there's a bunch of craziness, even if it's paying a whole lot of money, you got to think, there might be another company doing the same thing. That's when you start looking for something else, because that's not going to do you any good if you staying in madness, right? If you're in a social circle and it's just a bunch of craziness and stuff, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect you. And whether that social circle is in the real world or it's in online. I mean, that social circle could be within a church. If there's a bunch of madness there, you gotta get away from it. And see, here's the reason. You got to ease away from it. Ease away. Just gradually cut it off, because that makes it easier. Because once you in that circle to begin with, you used to it. You probably know people, or a situation or whatever. You're used to it. So it's hard to just go cold turkey unless some extreme happens, and it usually don't. A lot of madness and chaos is like some subtle stuff. It's like that faucet that leaks. It could be very subtle, like a drip here and there. Or, that crack that's slowly forming in like the wall or something, like that. But you got to get away from it. And I'm going to tell you why. At some point, it's affecting you. You're like a fish in water. You can have a school of fish in a freshwater lake, but then somebody starts dumping like some toxic materials into it. It's going to affect that fish at some point. Maybe even mutate them, maybe kill them, something. Even if they adapt to it, they're already affected by it. See, you got to get away from madness, because regardless of what's going on, regardless of how strong-minded you are, you would tend to take on the energy of that social circle. Now, in deep thought, we get into some metaphysics. Let's talk about energy. You're going to take on the energy, because what people do, regardless of where they are and who they are, regardless of how strong they are, people tend to take the energy on of wherever they at just to get along. Like if you have a person who normally operates on a high frequency, you put them in a low frequency environment long enough. You put them in a low frequency environment long enough, they start to get affected. Basically, to put it in more layman's terms, you get pulled down to their level. Like on a personal basis, that's why I avoid like beefs, even situations where someone called themselves going in on me. I ignore them for a reason. I don't want to go to that level. I'm going to a higher level. And even in my socially, I prefer to be around people who are operating at that higher level. In fact, I prefer. It's not always easy, but I prefer like any social circle, anything I'm dealing. I'm the lowest level there. I'm the lowest. That way I can raise mine. Now that hasn't always been the case, but I always try to be around other people who are trying to elevate situations, people, anything. Even to the point I stay to myself a lot. As I've said before, and I've said this on my other channel, when I'm actually more introverted. Now, introverted don't mean shy. I'm far from shy, but I stay to myself a lot just because I don't want to be in situations where the person's energy brings me down or the group's energy bring me down. Now, I could flow through different groups temporarily for whatever special need, but for the most part, I'm just, I don't want to be around it because it affects you, and especially if it's madness. Because in fact, because of taking on the energy of the particular group, circle, or wherever that madness is, that's why a lot of people, even if they want to escape, can't. Because their bodies have gotten used to that frequency. We prefer, because if you put that person all of a sudden in a different, more peaceful frequency, they might not be able to handle it right away. They might not be able to deal with it right away. That's why, let me use the example of relationships, right? Say you have a person and they mate, or they dealt with a series of mates who were just crazy, dramatic, doing all sorts of stuff. And then usually that person will they'll meet somebody and end up being in a relationship with them. And that person is real calm, cool, and everything. It's a breath of fresh air. But at some point, that person go back to what they're used to. That's why you have a lot of women. They might want a good guy. They might want a great guy and stuff and run into him, but they don't know what to do with him because they're used to dealing with guys dogging them and cursing them out and everything. And that happens with men too. If you get a lot of men who are used to dealing with dramatic women, always keeping something going, you get that real peaceful woman. You're like, So, that's why to get away from all that, you got to just ease it away, because you got to gradually change your energy up. You got to graduate. It's not easy. It's hard. Going cold turkey is hard. So as you ease away from it, you gradually bring in a new energy. That way you can go to a higher level, and it's easier because you've been working on it gradually. You're easing away from the madness. But you're not just easing away from the madness. You're going into something else. And I'm going to get into that tomorrow. Peace and blessings.